Welcome to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast, where we move from wonder to worship, looking for God at work in the world around us, ready to ask the tough questions and discover what His Word has to say to us. Today's episode is titled This and That, and it comes from me, Casey Taylor. Let me ask you something. Do you have a big family? Do you ever go to dinner with your sports team or with people from a school organization? Have you ever gone to a potluck dinner where people bring smaller portions of food to a massive community meal to share with a ton of other people? If you have, you'll know that there is definitely proper etiquette to sharing food with other people that basically says, take your share, or your portion. But you shouldn't take a bigger amount than what might be your divided part of the whole.
Oh my.
In other words, think about how much you take, because everyone else might want some too. Don't get greedy. If you bring mashed potatoes to a dinner, I just need for you to know that I want to eat them all. Or if you bring fresh chocolate chip cookies to my house, I'd like to inform you that inside my head, I'm fighting a battle not to eat them all. But because I know that you too might want some warm and gooey chocolate chip cookies, or even some fluffy and creamy mashed potatoes, I stop myself. The reason I stop myself is because unless you brought those over to me personally, you meant for me to have my share, or to use a more biblical term, my portion. My portion isn't usually all of anything, even if I'd like it to be. God illustrated this for the Israelites when they left Egypt, and He provided manna each morning when they woke up to eat their fill, but not to save more than what they needed for that specific day, their daily portion. He wanted them to learn to trust Him for all that they needed as they left the familiar life that they left in captivity to the Egyptians. He wanted them to shift their trust from trusting the Egyptians being their masters to Him being their master, and the provider He promised to be. Jesus, in the next verse that we'll look at today in the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6, is sharing God's heart for His people again in verse 11.
Give us this day our daily bread, Matthew 6:11.
Now the Israelites looked at the manna, and for some of them, it didn't go much deeper than, can I eat this? And will there be enough of it to sustain me? And for those who didn't trust that it would be, they tried to store some of it. But after a day, it always went bad. Manna for God wasn't just about food, though it was His provision for their nourishment. It was more about their trusting Him to provide and to believe that He would continue to be trustworthy, even when things didn't always happen in the ways that they'd like for them to. In telling the disciples to pray in this same way, that God would give us this day our daily bread, Jesus is again reminding them to not only trust God for their physical provision, but also to continue to believe and trust in God as their provider for everything, even their very lives. He wanted them to pray, not because otherwise God wouldn't provide, but to remind themselves in front of God that God was their only real provider and that He would sustain them every new day with all that they needed. Jesus isn't just looking for them to remember the right words to pray like a combo lock to open the blessings of God. He wants to encourage them towards belief, faith, and trust in God. When we remind ourselves and recall before God the things that are true, our hearts are reminded and God is honored. He's already promised to provide all that He knows that we need. Our verse today is about us believing in that promise and taking it to the bank or the buffet. He is our portion, our daily bread. Now, is anyone else kind of hungry?
Now it's time for
Today's big question.
Today's big question is, what do we think we really need in life? Not just what we want, but what do we actually need? What do we think God wants us to remember when we actually do go hungry? Or when we lose our homes or our jobs as adults someday? What is our daily bread in those moments? Now this is a tough one, but one worth talking about with an adult. What is God providing us when we don't have much to show for ourselves? Thanks for listening to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast. If you want to keep in touch with us on all our social media platforms, check out the links in the description. And if you'd like to help support us as we continue to create meaningful content for kids of all generations, please subscribe to our Patreon by visiting us at patreon.com/wearegenerationkids.